Welcome into Spilly on the Rocks, the South Beach sessions. I am actually stuck in Miami because I'm heading off to an Apple game on Friday night. So I'm headed to Detroit to go watch my favorite team in baseball, the Detroit Tigers. However, my second favorite team is the Colorado Rockies, and they did the unexpected. They did the impossible. They swept the Miami Marlins, which is so funny because everybody was talking crap on Friday and heading into the weekend. And then, of course, they see on Monday after the Rockies got swept by the New York Mets that they're the worst team ever. And then, now they're going to take on the lowly Miami Marlins. And, what's going to happen here? Well, the Rockies swept. They took down the Marlins. They won 3 games in Miami. Won Monday, they won Tuesday, and they won on Wednesday, a day game at 12:10. Probably the combined attendance of this series was like 5,000 fans, all serving witness for the Rockies, which was awesome. So eat it, Miami. That's also a franchise that I do not like, the Miami Marlins, for a litany of reasons. I go back, speaking about the South Beach team for a second, because if you listen to me on Sirius XM, I'm really vocal about the Marlins. The Marlins are a team that I'm really disappointed in. Although there's some signs that they're improving. However, when I think about this Marlins team, and a lot is going to be made about the attendance this week, and much of it's going to be misguided. Misguided because the weather here has been terrible. Monday there was flooding on the streets, so of course Monday was going to be not very well attended. You're talking about a Monday game. It's still like Miami doesn't draw well, anyways. Tuesday was just as bad when it comes to the rain and everything, and then Wednesday it's a 12:10 game. So really poorly attended, and rightfully so. The reason why I have problems with Miami is I go back to the ownership structure that happened here. So um, there's a storied case here. You go back to the Marlins in 15, 16, 17. They were pretty exciting to watch. I mean, they had Jose Fernandez, they had Giancarlo Stanton, they had Christian Yelich, they had Marcell Ozuna. I mean, like this was a really fun team. Derek Dietrich, a guy that like lifts tons of weights. And then the worst thing could have ever happened to the franchise. Jose Fernandez gets killed in a boating accident, and I remember where I was. I was in L.A. when we heard news about it, and there was multiple guys that played with the Marlins, and I mean, it was just like devastation. I mean, this was one of the best young pitchers in baseball. I mean, this was like a number one starter. This was like a true, bona fide ace for the team, probably a top 10 pitcher in the entire sport, and gregarious personality, just like fun to watch. I mean, really fun to watch. I go back to my like very first broadcast was in 2014, and that was an opening day in Miami. That was my very first television broadcast, was here in Miami, and it was Jose Fernandez got the start, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, like his stuff was incredible. It was like so electric, and just how he carried himself, and watching him take his at bats and all this stuff. And the franchise lost this guy, and it really was. It set the franchise back so far. And the story is that Jeffrey Loria, who is this like despised owner with the president of baseball operations, what is it, David Sampson. And Sampson's considered like one of the slimiest presidents ever, but he's really good at media, really good at media. Um, and Sampson and Loria, the connections there is just, yeah, like this franchise like stunk, even at that time. But with Jose Fernandez passing away, that ended up being like such a blow to everybody, and specifically to Jeffrey Loria, the owner at that time. And he just couldn't take it, couldn't stomach owning this franchise. So the franchise became for sale. A lot of people wanted them to sell it, but like this was like the straw. And so Major League Baseball went on a search for like new owners, and one of the owners was Jorge Mas. And Jorge Mas is worth noting because I know we're seeing, MLS soccer has been taking off, right? We have like the Colorado Rapids, fantastic MLS team. My daughter plays in uh, their 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 competitive soccer program. We love the Rapid soccer. And now we're seeing women's soccer is coming to town, which is great. And I just saw Peyton Manning's going to be an owner in it too. So like it's awesome to see soccer just explode in Colorado. And we have like such a great women's soccer presence from Lindsey Horan, who's from Golden, to Sophia Smith, who's in Windsor, to Mallory Pugh, who's from Colorado too. Like some of the best women's soccer players in the world are from Colorado. So it makes a ton of sense to get a women's soccer program. So I love that. I cannot wait to see women's professional soccer in Colorado. It's great. I'm going to be one of the first people that has a has a jersey, and I'm all for it. I can't wait. So Jorge Mas is like in the running for this team in Miami. He's trying to buy the Marlins. He went to University of Miami. He's a multi-billionaire. He has, Latin American ties. And when he's up for the running, he's telling Major League Baseball, I'm not going to get rid of these players. Like we have great players. I want to keep them together. The second group was the Sherman group, and Sherman's group was had a face that Major League Baseball wanted. They had Derek Jeter. And so the owners, I'm not sure all this, all the doings here, but the commissioner's office went for the Sherman group with Derek Jeter. My bias says part of the reason why they wanted to have Sherman's group with Jeter is that they weren't worth billions of dollars. So they could keep a low payroll team in South Beach versus this, eccentric billionaire owner, Latin American that's going to spend money on the team. And that created this massive issue. Big time problem. I hate it. I still blame the commissioner's office. I blame Rob Manfred. I blame everybody involved because this is what ends up happening. So Sherman's group, and again, like we talk about ownership, especially specific to the Rockies or like any sort of like asking an owner to sell the team because the team stinks. Careful what you wish for, because when a new owner comes in, depending on if it's a multi-billionaire or if it's like a uno billionaire or less than that, as was the case with Sherman, there is going to be debt service because they're not going to put all their cash into buying the team. They borrow. That's what they do. They use their balance sheet and they borrow money. They bought the team, and then debt service comes into play. So what do you do when you're trying to service debt? Well, you try to lower payroll. And so that's exactly what the Marlins did. They ended up trading away Giancarlo Stanton. They got nothing in return. Actually ends up being kind of a good deal, but at the same time, I'm not going to give them that much credit. They traded Christian Yelich. They traded away Marcell Ozuna. The Marcell Ozuna deal, fantastic though. They ended up landing Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen pitching with the Diamondbacks, and they ended up spinning Zach Gallen for Jazz Jim. I'll give him credit. Like I'm always going to give you credit if you do well. But overall, big picture, terrible, terrible idea. And so, a couple problems that you have with this ballpark in Miami to begin with, and I don't think Florida has ever been able to sustain two teams in Florida. It's like proven. They're 29th and 30th in attendance year after year after year. And I get it that the Marlins have won 2 World Series. That's great. It's awesome. But the Rays have been in the World Series too. So, okay, so you got 3 World Series appearances, 2 World Series titles, but this state does not support a consistent major league team. They shouldn't have 2 teams in Florida. If you have a team in Florida, it's one spot, and it should be in Orlando. So Tampa Bay has been a disaster and still a train wreck. And then South Florida has been just like pathetic. Doesn't matter. It's painting the picture for why this week matters. So when you think about the Marlins specifically, what could be different? Hopefully, it was a new owner, a different owner. At this point now, Sherman's making so much money on TV rights and revenue sharing. There's really no reason to put money into the payroll, really. And their roster is kind of like interesting for me. The guy that's the president of baseball ops, his name is Peter Bendix. Came from the Tampa Bay Rays. Was one of the front office guys. Um, smart smart guy, but he's going to operate the Marlins like it's a Tampa Bay Rays. So Marlins have turned into Tampa Bay South, which means there's no stars here. There's nothing really like that draws your interest, and that remains true. This is a very disinteresting organization. Like I would much rather watch the Rockies with all their problems right now and watching Ezekiel Tovar, a McMahon, a Kyle Freeland, a Herman, a Brenton Doyle, like a Jordan Beck, I'd rather see that than what I'm watching with the Marlins. Now, the players that they're earmarking for the Marlins actually work. Uh, Shorter swings, high contact, low walk, but there's a method to the madness that I think the Rockies should take note of. But they have no stars. They have nobody like legit, nobody that you're really like, I want to watch the Marlins. So uh, the other part is with this ballpark, and again, going back to the attendance, because I want to address it. I think it's important to address the attendance and why we're here versus saying it's like it's the Rockies and Marlins. It's not specifically that. This ballpark is nearly impossible to get to. There is no public transportation consistent that gets you there. They're not drawing from South Beach. You're not it's not drawn like the Miami Heat. It's not in a great spot. It's in a poor spot. And like you take side streets and it's in Calle Ocho, which is actually kind of cool spot to be in, Little Havana. Pit bulls from this area. It's like that. There's some cool spots about it. They've drawn really well for the WBC, which makes sense, like a Latin community. The amount of Latin players on this team that are like draws, there's zero. There's none. Um, so, first off, getting to this ballpark stinks. And then, second off, there's no marquee players' names at all. The payroll is like near the bottom of baseball, and they're kind of unwatchable. Like being honest, like they're kind of like I would give you $1,000 if you can name 4 players on the team. 4 players, you couldn't do it, and there's a former Cy Young there. So watching the series and understanding like the weather and then how hard it is to get here, and I just gave you the history of why this is really poorly attended, is that they failed to capture the audience. If they would have kept Jorge Mas, if they would have allowed Jorge Mas to take over, maybe this franchise is much better to watch. I don't know that. I don't know that, but I'd like to think it would have been a much better product than what it currently is. So, regardless of what you think, the attendance was probably the worst I've ever seen. But again, I just laid out the reason why the attendance was so poor. Okay. All right. So now let's get into the Rockies. They won Monday. Hunter Goodman hit 2 homers. Fantastic. It was great. Hits another homer on Tuesday. That was the start for Herman, and Herman threw more curveballs than he's ever done before. Actually ended up with a win. Good to see. I'm hoping that Herman continues to like gain some I guess league equity as far as like a possible trade candidate because he is a free agent after this year. Um, and then we saw Ezekiel Tovar get pulled out of the game. So most likely Tovar, there's a day off on Thursday. We'll see what happens with Tovar. My gut tells me there's going to be a move, and then we'll finally see Ryan Ritter. So for all those people out there that are complaining, Ryan Ritter is going to come. That's my guess. That's my gut. My gut says that. And then on Wednesday, they won again. And it was Kyle Freeland who ends up getting, he pitched really well. And it was like a big, he shaved his beard. So he has like no beard because he hasn't had a win. And then the Rockies win. Okay. So 3 wins so far in the month of June. And that is the most wins in baseball for the month. How about that? And this is kind of fun too, because the Rockies social media, they had some fun. I mean, it has been miserable, right? Like it has been Rockies have been like the joke of baseball, right? It has not been fun at all. And I'm not sure if any of you saw the social media post, but it was talking about the amount of wins that the Rockies have had, and in comparison to Scotty Scheffler. Like Scotty Scheffler had three major golf wins in comparison to the Rockies, who had three wins. And so then the Rockies win since June 2nd. Colorado Rockies three, Scotty Scheffler zero. So they kind of like had fun with that. Great tweet. Let's read some replies. You guys are an embarrassment, insult to the great game. Okay. Some girl in a nice shirt. This is great. Love it. Everybody's laughing. Well done. You do know how sad things look, right? Yeah, of course. First sweep since 2024, and we're already feeling snarky. Damn right. Damn right. You can't win games, it's okay to celebrate when you do. Uh, I'm blown away at how few people are there. I just told you that. I told you that. This one's a great meme. Rockies have won again. Need this updated tomorrow. Fire, fire, fire. So funny, funny, funny. Um, negative 13 fans to witness. And then, of course, tagging people that have had really bad takes on it. This is great, right? Like the funny tweet, let them celebrate. It's fine. The Rockies, everybody knows that this thing has not been fun, right? Like they know. So let them have some enjoyment here. Day off tomorrow, and then the Mets come into town. So so Rockies 25 and a half games out of first place. They have a 0% chance to win the division, 0% chance to make the postseason, but we will highlight the good. ERA from bullpen has been great. These are all 30s. 30s means dead last. So 30th in average, 30th in on base percentage, 30th in OPS, 30th in runs scored, hitting a couple homers, stealing a couple bags. Like to see that top 10. Starting ERA, pitcher's ERA last, whip last, walks last, strikeouts last. Okay, all these need to improve. They do keep the ball in the yard a little bit. But then the bullpen, ERA 19th, still not great, but you're playing at Coors. Whip, walks, strikeouts for 9. That has to. So it's not great. It's not great at all, but at least for people in Colorado, having 3 games and winning 3 games, even though it doesn't seem like a big deal for the guys in the clubhouse, it was great. It was great. Like a breath of fresh air. Schaefer era is here. The Schaefer era is basically, using the whole roster as best as you can. Like I said, I'm going to watch the Detroit Tigers, my favorite team in baseball right now. And they use everybody on the roster. 26 guys. They use their farm system. Tigers are a great organization to try to follow suit. So there you go. Mets come into town. We'll see what happens with Tovar. But the Rockies swept. Rockies sweep. So eat that, national media. You can eat it and start with the beak of the crow and just crunch on it, and then you go through the feet, and that's how you eat it. Woody Page, that's for you too. Follow me at SpillyGoat19 and follow the boys at Mile High Sports. We'll be back at it probably next week.